Scott Adams, the cartoonist who gave America Dilbert, is suffering in the final throes of cancer. After he departs this vale of tears, his glorious BS radar should be prominently displayed in the Smithsonian Institution. Scott Adams had a sharper ear for American bloviating than anybody else. I have a story in Sunday's New York Post on Scott Adams and the Joy of Dilbert. The Dilbert cartoon strip was launched in 1989 and caught fire in the 1990s as many downtrodden office workers posting a Dilbert cartoon in their cubicle, it became a tiny flag of independence for them. No corporate or social trend was safe from a Scott Adams smackdown. In a 2011 strip, Dilbert's pointy-haired boss explains to a job applicant, "Our company's family-friendly and very green. If I get a chance to sell your kids for a handful of carbon credits, I'll do it." Adams left almost no Washington sacred cow unkicked. In a 2012 cartoon, he caricatured the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The thing he did, he set up Dogbert's International Bank for bailing out countries that are bad at math. A third world despot, clamoring for a handout, complains, "Our treasury is empty and we're not sure why." Actually, Congress has had the same problem for about 25 straight years with all the deficit spending. Government surveillance spurred some of Scott Adams' best smackdowns. Anybody who ever castigated TSA's whole body scanners will appreciate this 2016's Dilbert returns from poverty-stricken Albonia, and he's told that he appeared naked on their national television. Why? Because the only television program in Albonia is a live feed from their airport from their full-body scanners. I've had fun taunting TSA for more than 20 years, especially about those whole-body scanners, but as far as I know, my backside has never appeared on TV as a result. After Edward Snowden blew the whistle on the federal surveillance crime spree, Dilbert featured a series of strips in 2013 showing federal agents targeting him on false accusations. In one of the final strips, two federal agents visit Dilbert's mother and ask her to talk Dilbert into leaving the safe haven embassy so that they could kill him. In the final panel of that strip, Dilbert's mother is holding a shovel and she's patting down the graves, two freshly dug graves. A 2018 strip exposed Washington's favorite scam. Dilbert's boss explains, "Your project summary needs more jargon and acronyms. The goal is to make ourselves look smart while making the readers feel dumb." Federal agencies perpetually play that charade on slow-witted congressmen. I've lambasted federal agencies for touting boneheaded goals that look like they may have been lifted out of a Dilbert cartoon. As I wrote in the American Spectator, a Mississippi program promised that its AmeriCorps members would perform a, quote, self-diagnosis in the end-of-the-year survey that produced a 75% increase on average in understanding about self. That sounded great. It put all the therapists in the nation out of business. After I swooped down to the Mississippi Delta to investigate that squirrely claim, the chief of that program was convicted of fraud and sent to federal prison. Instead of self-diagnosis, that program had a bunch of ghost employees who didn't even do any work, even by AmeriCorps standards. Shortly after President Biden dictated an illegal vaccine mandate for 100 million American adults, in September 21, Dilbert featured the evil HR director, Catbert, who was notifying the staffers, "When you signed your employment documents, you agreed to let us manipulate your DNA. Roll up your sleeve." Unfortunately, voters were not warned in 2020 that Biden would inject them with an experimental vaccine. The Supreme Court struck down most of that illegal mandate in early 2022. At his best, Scott Adams obliterated the dogmas propagated by bootlicking Washington pundits. After the January 6, 2021 clash at the U.S. Capitol, Adams scoffed, "What kind of coup takes over a few empty rooms and controls the country? We got your empty rooms and your lectern. bow to us. No wonder the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack never called Scott Adams as an expert witness. In a bushel of books, Scott Adams offered plenty of life advice for the perplexed. In a 2014 book, Adams advises if you want success, figure out the price and pay it. That's a modern version of the axiom from the Greek philosopher Epictetus that I taped to my bedroom wall 40 years ago. First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Adams offered a surefire fix for pesky colleagues at the office. He says, drape an empty gun holster over your desk chair. If anyone asks where the gun is, say, it depends. Whose side are you on? With my humble home office in the background here, I don't get a chance to use that gun holster trick. Perhaps Scott Adams' best advice is to guard your concentration like the crown jewels. Modern technology is one damn distraction after another. Who has not heartily cursed an untimely text message beep? Scott Adams wrote, my morning is all about stilling the outside world so that my mind can soar. Personally, I recognized that long ago that there was magic to morning lucidity that usually vanishes by high noon. Admittedly, I never aspired to Scott Adams' dairy farmer-style 5 a.m. wake-ups. When Adams revealed his terminal diagnosis in May, he said he'd postponed the announcement because once you go public, you're just the dying cancer guy. But for tens of millions of his fans, Scott Adams will always be the guy who brightened their lives by brilliantly mocking the absurdities and indignities they face every day. I speak for millions of fans when I wish Scott Adams that things can go as easily as possible here on out.